right, so welcome to 1 Million Cups. We would like to thank Drive and the Bucknell Small Business Development Center and Startup Danville for hosting us today. Very excited to have you all here. For those of you who are familiar with what 1 Million Cups is, we are an entrepreneurial ecosystem caffeinated by the Kauffman Foundation, and we help entrepreneurs throughout the Susquehanna River Valley to get involved and engaged. We have amazing sponsors that include Mark Burke at Mindset, the Bucknell Small Business Development Center, the Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Central PH Chamber of Commerce, and the Columbia Montour Chamber of Commerce, as well as MediaStead. Today, our format is that we have one presenter. That presenter will have 6 minutes to come up, talk to you about their business, and identify some key issues that they're facing, and then look for our collective minds to help them, and we'll have 20 minutes to discuss what those solutions could look like, what resources are available, things like that. If you do not currently follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you should. You should also connect with our website. That way you can stay up to date on events like this that continue to happen every month throughout the Susquehanna River Valley. So to start this morning, I will introduce Stephanie, who was the speaker coach for our speaker today.
Good morning, everyone. So I am so excited to introduce Emily today. We got to chat and I learned a little bit about her business. So she works in the area of medicine, functional medicine, healthcare. So some really exciting things she's going to share today. I have already requested to get on her waiting list for some of what she does. It's very interesting. She has been in business for just over a year, started in November of 2021, but started taking clients in January of 22. She has 3 small children, so she is doing that balancing act that so many of us are, of raising a family and caring for them while trying to build up her practice. So I am so excited to introduce Emily to you all today.
Or is that where you're...
So I have, when I get in front of an entrepreneur or a small business owner, what I talk to them about is it's an opportunity. So this model, how you can provide healthcare options to employees, this is also like you can use it as an expense, right? So you can provide this option to your employees also. Yeah. That is definitely...
Your struggle is with actually getting in front of those small business owners, the entrepreneurs who...
Getting in front of them, being able to sell my worth, because I know what I'm worth, and I've been in the healthcare system for about 12 years in different roles, so I know what the healthcare system has to offer. I also know what it has to offer on the receiving end from somebody who wasn't insured for a long time. And I also know the quality of the care that I give, right? So many people, I had a phone conversation yesterday with a patient. I called her at 7 o'clock at night. She goes, you know what? My PCP isn't going to be calling me at 7 o'clock at night with something that they learned in their class that day and wanted to change about my health. And I said, well, why am I going to be a gatekeeper to the information that I learned if it's going to benefit you? Like, I'm going to take that time to do that, you know? So it's different. It's a different way to seek health. But yes, you can offer it to the employees as a healthcare benefit. I have one company who had sought us out. Their base is actually in another state that really uses direct primary care. They said we're the only company within like a 50-mile radius. There's ones down in Lancaster who do direct primary care, but they're starting to work with us in October as a part of their insurance model for their employees. Any other questions? Any others' advice?
Keep talking. I just don't want to talk. So my thought, I'm with Lewisburg Downtown Partnership, so we work with the businesses in Lewisburg, we support, that's our role. And there's organizations like mine throughout the Susquehanna River Valley. And I think that, reaching out to provide information in a concise way that can be offered, like to businesses, I think particularly of restaurants in our town that I know owners would like to provide something to their staff, and it's just cost prohibitive. It's just not even, so that's, I would say that might be a place.
So restaurants is a really big.
The restaurants, but reaching out to the Main Street organizations and certainly the chambers too.
Yes, for sure.
To get something that would be a one-page or a digital that we can include in our newsletters and say, hey, if you want to learn more about this, or even, you know, we can invite you into one of our business forum type meetings, and I'm sure other organizations locally can do the same.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it.
Emily, could you describe, like, what are your experiences like using your service as opposed to other traditional healthcare options that are out there?
So I'll speak on the direct primary care portion. So direct primary care, you'd come in, we'd have a consultation, and I'd get to know you. And then from there, you have my full contact number. We devise a plan of care, whether you want to take advantage of our nutrition services or other services we have at the facility, like our sauna, our IV infusion. And I do have the conversation, like, do you want to handle this traditionally, or do you want to handle it, like, get to the root cause? Because all of the direct primary care patients have the ability to do the functional approach. And then they have 24/7 access to me. So if it's Sunday at 6 p.m. and you're like, hey, I think I have an infection, I either need to go to urgent care or I need a prescription, like, you can text me. I will then call you and I'll say, hey, Denny, what's going on? What are we going to do? Tell me what are your symptoms? And then you either will get into an appointment with me the next day, or that counts as our appointment, and there's no fee. It's just the $75 a month for that unlimited access. So, any other questions or comments? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
$75 a month, I think, is pretty low considering a typical copay can be anywhere between 25 to 50. And so if you have any sort of, like, you know, recurring issues, that's, you know, I guess my concern for you is, like, is that scalable? Like, how many?
So it's scalable. My number is about 400 patients as to what I would want to do. But the goal of direct primary care is, when you seek health care right now, right, for your $25 to $50 copay, how long is your appointment with your doctor?
15 minutes.
Do you have the same doctor every time?
Well, I do, because I'm annoying. But
Okay, sometimes we're not. We're getting other providers, right? We're getting NPs, PAs, other physicians. They're not always available, right? I know when I was seeking healthcare, my doctor was never available, and I always saw mid-level. I'm a mid-level myself. I don't care about that. But I want to establish that relationship so that when I message you and I say, hey, like, so for example, my kids are adopted, and I went through a really hard time with that, and I had a lot of mental health struggles. I don't want to have to explain that story 20 times to different providers. I want my provider to know who I am, what my story is, and how this event right here is an issue, right? So if it's about 15 minutes, my appointments are about an hour long. Then you need longer, they're longer. I block out about an hour and a half per patient. So it's scalable in the portion, or in the idea that I take, and I don't want to use the word better care because I'm not knocking our healthcare system. It's really great, but I have the ability to take that time with you and get to know you as a person. And then I'm the one that's on call. So I have about 145 patients currently, both functional and traditional and pediatric. And the amount of times that I get calls after hours are very limited. Now, of course, I have the people, you know, that just need a little extra coaching, but I take such quality care in our time together that the number of visits I do have decreased significantly for these patients. So scalable because I'm going to do it different, right? I'm not going to slam each patient in 15 minutes and that's all you have with me. If your story or your concerns are going to take a lot longer, Lyme disease is a really current, common problem in our area. I call my Lyme disease patients every week. Every week I have contact with them so that they don't feel alone, because it's really hard being treated for that. You know, if I treated cancer, it'd be the same thing. So. I know you had a question. Did it get answered?
no, keep it.
Okay.
So you mentioned about entrepreneurs. I'm curious to get your thoughts about, stages of entrepreneurism. Are you looking to attract early stage entrepreneurs? Is it more like the longer term business owners that have been in business 5-10 years? Is that even a distinction you even make? I'm just curious if we can help you with kind of across the board entrepreneur is a very broad term, right?
Right, 100%. And different sizes, different times in their entrepreneur journey. I really haven't chosen a distinctive time. At the end of the day, the thing I want to do is I just want to be there for people. I don't want them to endure the same struggles that I have on this route, both traditionally, functionally, or alternative medicine. I just want to help you. Like at the end of the day, if you want to say a message, I just want to help you, right? So
along that lines, we have the issue of insurance, right? And so for entrepreneurs, having gone through this myself, like insurance is astronomical.
Very.
Right. And so I'm always looking for like, how can I bring that in line? Like I don't have an employer, I'm the employer, so I'm paying the full amount and paying ridiculous fees, right? Is that part of the message? Like how do we get entrepreneurs to understand the benefit? I think is it an educational issue? Like we have to teach entrepreneurs? Do we just have to market to them more?
I think it's a combination of everything, to be honest with you. So when we talk about the insurance, we as a population have been driven to feel that our healthcare should be covered by insurance. But actually it should be like car insurance where like you pay to put your tires on and have them rotated and that kind of stuff. And then if you're in an accident, that's what's covered, right? Like that's how healthcare should work. But in comparison, so what you had said, I'm going to have a brain fog moment here. It's both. It's both marketing and understanding what the difference is between the insurance model. I have also went to insurance companies to explain to them what I have done, and they're on board, they're excited, they want to do it, but they're scared, right? Because it's different. It's different in this area, and to be able to say, one common thing that we've come across to do is you increase the premium, so it's a cheaper policy, and you either do like an HSA or you use that money saved into paying for a membership at the office, and then what happens is they don't end up using their insurance. Self-funded programs where the employer is also paying more if their employees are unhealthy, that's another targeted thing, right? So we're going to make the employees healthier so that they don't use the insurance. That's another option.
So I'm a speech pathologist.
Yes.
So I understand
The whole thing.
But when I was looking at your website, when I was looking at it, like functional therapy or functional medicine wasn't clear to me.
Okay.
Because it just sounded like you were just a primary care.
Okay.
So maybe changing your focus of demonstrating what you're telling us, putting it into writing,
Okay.
so that it looks clear of how you are different.
Okay.
Because I've heard functional medicine, right? But it just sounded like, oh, well, I'm just going to a doctor, so who are you compared to going to a health system?
So clearing up the functional medicine portion a little bit.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I will handle that.
I would say $75, you're lowballing yourself.
Yes. So for the functional medicine portion, it's $150 for the first visit, and then it's $75 a month for 6 months, and you're locked into that $75. So even if, say, month 2 or 3 weren't into the lifestyle changes and it just was too much, it wasn't what you thought, you're still locked into that for that 6 months. So each patient, that functional patient that walks through the door, is that $600. And then in comparison to other direct primary cares, and even that is midline. It's anywhere from, some people are less, some people are like $50, because their goal is to get more patients. So in comparison to across the board, it's about $50 to $100 is what a monthly fee for any direct primary care would cost, because that's the point, right? To keep the cost low so it's attainable. I'm not trying, my goal is not to become a millionaire based on everybody else. My goal is to provide quality care to a lot of people who need it, you know? So like when I was younger, and that was 15, 20 years ago when we were going through this, a doctor's appointment was about $200. That didn't include anything else. That didn't include labs or medication or anything. So that was unattainable, and I was a sick kid, right? So my parents had to choose between like paying some bills or taking their child to the doctor, and I don't ever want that to be a problem for anybody. So yes, in the big scheme of things, in comparison to what healthcare costs, $75 seems very minimal. But if my goal is 400 patients, that's about $30,000 a month of income, and I get to just be there for them. So it's, in my mind, I hear what you're saying, I feel it. I feel bad increasing prices. I guess that's a mental block for myself. I know what I'm worth, but if I charge what I feel I'm worth, like I had a Lyme disease patient who was traveling to Philadelphia, and she charged him $350 for a half an hour visit. He stopped treatment because he couldn't afford that, and he ended up getting sicker. So where's the profit? My profit is in making better lives, right? Improving quality of life. So for him, he came in, he paid the $150, he's on the 75 months, so he's getting 2 half-hour visits for 7 months with me, and he's getting that quality support. So I guess it's just different. You know, it's
And explaining that.
Yes. So that's my struggle. How do I put all of that? I thought about making like a video or something so where I could put it on my website so that I didn't have to explain it in words, because I'm going to be honest with you, I went to Shikellamy. My words are not really, my English is not top notch. But yeah. Yes, right?
Emily, Jason online has a comment for you.
Yes.
Hi, just wanted to let you know I'm tuning in from the Shikellamy area. So, but you actually answered a little bit of my question, and that was should you describe in more depth on your website? And I was going to suggest creating a video. And it may be less of a talking head video and more of an explainer video where you can do the short and long version. Have a 1 minute, here's what I do in a nutshell, and then a longer 15-minute, say, video that goes in depth into all of the benefits to an employer. The other question that I had, you talked a bit about entrepreneurs, and I feel like ideally you don't want to have to sell yourself many times. So finding companies that have that 10 to 100 employee range and do have health care coverage, and talking to them about the cost benefit of offering additional services. And then you'd be talking to usually an HR person rather than the owner or entrepreneur, because that's part of their job, is not only to hire people, but to make sure they are providing benefits as low cost as possible. So yeah, those are my 2 thoughts. We are encouraging all of our clients, I'm a website developer, to go with video. There's an investment up front to do video, but generally speaking, it pays off. The stair steps to that would be to have lots of people look at your website and answer their questions that they have, because that becomes better content for your website. So the people who ask you questions in this meeting, take note of that and say, here are the areas it's unclear.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yes.
So, 2 comments or questions. It sounds like this is a model that you're replicating that maybe is being done elsewhere, or is this something that's totally originating from you?
Direct primary care is a model that's been done all over the United States, yes.
Where you pay for
where you pay just that small monthly fee. And most direct primary care offices have a pharmacy that they've created where they are 100% no insurance involvement. So right now, I have a direct primary care patient who they still have insurance, but they don't want to use it. So they've downgraded their policy, have invested in an HSA, use the HSA to pay for our services, and then they can still have like the medication benefits and things like that. So yeah, the direct primary care model, it's been, it's around. It's like, so the company that's reaching out, they own a couple nursing homes here. Their like mothership is in Georgia, which is a very popular area, so they know about it. They have direct primary contracts for all of the other nursing homes down in like the Lancaster area for their employees. So they reached out because they found us on another platform, working with my website developer to put us in other places. We're going to be on about 50 different platforms so that people can find us. So yes, it is a model that has been done. It's a little different because we have the functional medicine sort of sitting out here too. It's not just a direct primary care office. And I will say, when building my website, that was a hard distinction. Like, there's not a lot of price difference, right? It's the same starting price. The only difference is direct primary care is locked into it for a year and can be paid for by employers. And then the functional medicine portion is like a 6-month contract. And it just looks different in our approach during the times of appointments.
And then my other comment was, if you have any successes, I think people being able to see themselves and some of your successes might help with the marketing.
Yeah.
You know, because it's abstract, it's like not something that we've all dealt with before. So
Right.
maybe understanding how other folks have dealt with it.
Yes. So success stories or reviews? So reviews I get, right? I have those. But do you want, when you say success stories, you say like, I have a functional medicine success story where this patient came in, he was struggling with XYZ and came in, and then I have a couple direct primary cares who they didn't have any access to health care, and then they came in. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
That was it. I was just gonna say testimonials.
Testimonials.
If it's relatable, so say I'm an entrepreneur, which I'm not really. But if I were, I would say a testimonial, and if you can see yourself in that person and it's relatable, it's an easy sell.
Would you use like a prompter for it, right? So we have like the information, like what did you come here for? Were you functional? Were you direct primary care? Because I do have a lot of reviews or testimonials of patients, right? But they don't really get into the nitty gritty of how their experience was. They just say, hey, I sought one of my employees is Amanda. She's our nutrition. I sought help because I was dealing with Hashimoto's, and it was really great. And that's, that's where it is. So would I use a prompter for that then?
So what my suggestion would be is, I'm a marketing artist for Seven Mountains Media, but my suggestion is doing a short 30-second testimonial video.
Okay.
People, how can I say this without being, people get bored with reading with text.
Right.
If you go to the internet, you're bombarded with videos, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook, whatever the platform, the social media platform is. But even like a 15-second, a 30-second testimonial, just to grab that attention of your audience, is very effective. So I would just suggest, doing a little short testimonial of just like you said with her, for instance, how it was beneficial to her. It doesn't have to be very wordsy, it doesn't have to be lengthy. But people want to relate to whatever product you're selling.
Right.
If you want to put it that way. And they can see themselves like, oh my gosh, I have Lyme's disease. I don't personally, Billy does not. But, if that's the person that you're trying to attract, you're like, okay, so you use your Lyme's disease patient as a testimonial, for example. And then it's completely relatable. And then when you drop the fact that it's only $75 a month, or whatever it is for that particular person, I think it's so obtainable that people are saying, yeah, sign me up. Where do I sign up? How do I enroll?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that the story you told about the patient who went somewhere else, stopped treatment, and then started back with you and is doing much better. Like,
that's a captivating story. That's a story that needs to be told. And I think that in like telling that on your website gives you the opportunity to explain the gap that you're filling.
Right.
And that for you, and that goes into, you know, it's not about the money. You recognize that, yeah, you're gonna make a living doing this, but it's that you could charge more, but your preference is to know that you're helping your community in a way, particularly those populations that wouldn't be served.
How do I approach them? Because a lot of patients, when I have asked them for reviews, they have said yes. Some of them have wanted to remain anonymous because they don't want their health struggles out there. It's a very vulnerable sort of thing, right? So success stories are really great, but some people don't. So that patient, he's a young 40-year-old guy. I don't, just knowing him, I don't think, and this is just a question, right? It's not pushback. I know him. He's not going to want to sit there and say, well, like, I stopped treatment because of finances. Like, you know, he already feels degraded because he can't, he has limited range of motion because of the disease. So he's had some life-altering events because of that. And now I'm going to sit him in front of a camera and say, hey, like, you stopped treatment because you couldn't afford to do it and you couldn't physically get in the car to drive to Philadelphia. Let's tell me how great I am, right? You know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't need to be, like, a story being told doesn't need to be in first person.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be him telling his story.
I could share it on his behalf,
share- yeah,
keeping
you
it
can share-
anonymous. Okay, sounds good.
Diane online has a question.
Hello. Oh,
We can't hear you, Diane.
hey, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
I sure was. Thank you. Again, first and foremost, thank you for doing what you're doing here. Speaking firsthand, I know the importance of this work. I'm interested in learning more about your functional medicine. When I look at your website, it simply says unique training in diagnostic testing. I'm sure other visitors to your website want to know more what that means. So can you tell me a bit about what the functional medicine or nutrition testing, what it looks like, what costs might be associated with it, and so forth?
So functional medicine labs are third-party companies who have created comprehensive testing. They use all of the same information that we get from traditional testing. One, they're more sensitive. Two, they are comprehensive, meaning they're putting that whole picture together. So for example, a hormone test. If anybody's ever struggled with any hormone disruptions or ever felt fatigued or other symptoms, and they're like, well, let's test your estrogen and your testosterone, and then they'll come back within normal limits. Or for women, when you see your estrogen and then in the little bottom it says like luteal phase, all these different things, and your number is going to fall into every one of those phases, and you're just like, I don't know what I'm looking at, right? One company we use is called Dutch. It's a dried urine hormone test, and what that does is it gives us a comprehensive picture of what's going on, not only with estrogen and testosterone, but also like the metabolites, which are portions of those hormones that our body sort of breaks down and use and can be a problem. It also tells us what our cortisol is doing, you know, throughout the day. It gives us a good cortisol curve. I could talk all day about these tests. Other ones are stool tests, right? Like if we have a lot of bowel dysfunction, we need to look at our digestion. We need to look if there's food allergies. We need to look at all of that. So it's not just a lab test. It's a whole each test I do functionally is about a good 15 to 20 pages of just pure information, and depending on the test, they are pretty expensive. They range anywhere. I think the cheapest test I have is a heavy metals test for $180. The most expensive I use is a cycle mapping, where it tells you what your hormones are doing on every day of your menstrual cycle, and that's about $800. So again, there's where the cost comes in. I want my patients not to be deterred from using this testing that's going to really significantly benefit them. So I therefore take the smaller income, again, functional medicine. If we look at other places, my cost has significantly been lower because I don't want to be a gatekeeper for healing. That's a personal, I think my personal vendetta or my personal drive is getting sometimes in the way of finances. But I have a lot of people who they couldn't afford going anywhere else. And I don't want to sit on this knowledge and not be able to share it with people.
Thank you, Emily. And so I might suggest that perhaps you share a little bit more of that information right directly on your website. Like you can expect to take collections of your bio. I work with these particular labs and so forth, just so that the potential client has a little bit more information. They know what to expect with your processes.
Sounds good. Anything else? Yes.
I was going to say, I was just thinking here in regards to the video and marketing and whatnot. I think a big thing would be doing something that really illustrates the difference between, like if I'm scheduling a doctor's appointment, the moment I walk in the door, what's the difference between what they're going to do there and what labs they're going to ask for and how they're going to ask me the information and what the visit is going to look like when I go to you. Like, what's the difference in that step-by-step process, and how is your process more tailored to the, you know, the patient, and how are you going to help them more and understanding like the whole picture of their health and not just, you know,
Not just sections.
That the doc sees on the chart that day that he's walking in.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So more explanation is what I'm hearing. More explanation of the difference between everything.
I just wanted to add one more thing without going down the rabbit hole here. You had mentioned, and I think it was a really good point that you came up with about, for instance, your Lyme disease gentleman. He's already vulnerable because of his disabilities that he's having from Lyme disease, correct? And how would you set him in front of a camera, you know? So perhaps he's not the person you would use. So you know your patients, okay? You know that they trust you. You formed this trust with them. So I think you would know with what patients you could do that testimonial with. It just comes to mind, I'm working with the vet center in Williamsport, and that was a huge, I don't want to say a setback, but we are doing testimonial with veterans that utilize the services and programs with the vet center in Williamsport. And that was huge with the clinical psychologists there and the counselors, is they said, hey, they've already formed this trust with us. And a lot of them don't want to, you know, go on, this was for radio commercials, not video, but same concept, right? They formulated this trust with the psychologist or the counselor, and they, a lot of the counselors and psychologists did not want to approach the veterans because of the trust they had. They're like, oh, well, I've told you all these things about me, my PTSD, for example. Now you want to use that to make commercials
Right.
for the vet center, you know? So that was their pushback. But again, the clinical psychologists and the counselors knew which veterans they could approach, though. So some of the clinical psychologists were like, oh no, Billy, this is, you know, we don't want
Right.
to do this. But other ones were like, okay, well, we know which ones want to share their story. They'll do it, but this person will do it anonymously, or this person is glad to use their name. So you do kind of have to tiptoe around it, be very mindful, you know, if that's the road that you would go down eventually, you know, as far as getting testimonials. So, but you're fully aware of that trust that you have with your patients, and you don't want to break that trust
Right.
by asking them to
Right.
do something that they don't want to do.
100%.
Yeah, but,
So
cool. All right, thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.